Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast with Phil Graham. We help you master Facebook ads and give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast, episode 325. I'm Phil Graham. I'm glad you're here because today I'm going to be sharing three meta, and when I say meta, I mean most effective tactics available. So three meta Facebook and Instagram ads that you should be running right now. So I like video games and I play 2K, which is basketball, and I also like Madden, which is football. And one of the things I thought about was that in those video games, and I think in most video games, maybe even all, there's always a meta every single year based off of how the game is programmed and certain exploits and certain things that you can do to have an edge and gain an advantage. So for example, in 2K, tall players are the meta. You could be somebody that is not as good at the game as whoever you're playing, but if you have really tall players, yes, the other player could still win, but you have a much better chance because you're using one of the most effective tactics available, which is leveraging tall players. That's just an example of a meta in a basketball game. But for every video game, there's a meta every single year. And it does change based off of how it's programmed. And it got me thinking, oh my gosh, like you have that with ads as well. And there's more than one meta. There's different ways you can succeed. But we have a meta that we like that I really want to share with you guys because it's so powerful and it really is amazing. So before we jump into that, though, I wanted to briefly mention Meta, the company, Facebook, etc., had their earnings report just this last Wednesday. And once again, my friends, they crushed it. It is a great time to be advertising on Facebook and Instagram. So Meta reported double-digit revenue growth for the first time since the fourth quarter of 2021. So that's really great. And also, their forecast for this next third quarter was better than what the analysts were expecting the forecast to be. They're very optimistic. It's looking good. The ad market is rebounding and doing well, and they think it's going to get even better. And then the numbers that I look at the most as somebody who is an advertiser are daily and monthly active users. In the last quarter, Facebook had 2.06 billion daily active users, which is insane. They projected 2.04 billion, so they came in even better than the market projected. But just remember, 2.06 billion daily active users, and then monthly active users, 3.03 billion versus 3 million expected. So they did better on that as well. So the key points here, users keep growing. They're more than any other platform and they're crushing it. Your customers, your clients, your ideal audience, they use Facebook, they use Instagram, they use it more than most platforms. And it is so powerful. 3 billion, over 3 billion monthly active users. That's a lot of people. And these daily and monthly active users are across all of Meta's properties. So Facebook, Instagram, all of Meta's platforms. So like I said, it's a great time to be advertising on Facebook and Instagram, and you're in the right place to learn because I've been doing this podcast over 6 years and I record a new episode every single week for you guys. And I love it because there's so much bad information out there. I love sharing the good. And by the way, if you guys want to get in touch, if you're looking for some one-on-one coaching to learn this ad stuff the right way, or maybe you're looking for somebody to actually run your ads for you so you can do what you do best, just get in touch with me by going to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital. You can also message me on Threads, I guess thread me, whatever they're calling it now. Is it called threading? You can thread me on Threads at philgrahamdigital as well. And I would love to hear from you. We can connect and set up a short Zoom call. All right, my friends, let's jump right into the value. And I want to share a great meta strategy, most effective tactic available that we like. There's more than one meta. It's like running different plays. You got some plays that'll work better than others, and it does depend on different factors. So depending on who our client is, what our goals are, what their situation is, and our strategy, the meta may change for those individual situations. But just overall, the three things I'm going to share with you guys today are super powerful, and you should be able to work these into almost any kind of a situation. And it's just amazing what it can do for you guys. So let's start with number one. I'm going to share three parts to this. Number one is our top of the funnel strategy. So the goal here is we want to get inexpensive awareness at a large scale. So we want to get lots of awareness from our audience, our broad audience, our segmented audiences, ideal audience, as much as possible. And we want to do it while spending the least amount of money possible as well. And that's our top of the funnel strategy and goal. The goal with this is not just to get a sale on the first touch, although sometimes that happens. The goal is to get awareness. This is the key. And it's not just the awareness, but it's strategic awareness that's combined with differentiation and doing it better than other advertisers that are competing for your customers. So the ad objective we use for this first meta, this top of the funnel strategy, are a couple different choices. Sometimes it's traffic. Sometimes we use sales/conversions. Other times we use video views, and other times engagement. Those are the most common. Those four are the most common ad objectives we use. The ones I use the most are sales and then also traffic. But all four of those are good. And depending on the budget and situation, sometimes I use all four, and other times I just use one. And then I'll test one and then switch it to a different one a few weeks later and test the next one. But using an objective and testing it can make a huge difference. We've had situations where we've run the same ad, but just changed the ad objective, and there was a significant difference, either bad or good, just from changing the objective. So you definitely want to be testing these things. For this top of the funnel meta, the creative that we use the most is video. Like, yes, you can use images, you can try carousels, but if you had a gun to my head and I had to pick one, without a doubt, no question, it would be video. We get the most out of that. So I recommend you guys leverage video everywhere, but especially at the top of the funnel for this meta as well. And then one of the keys to this is that you've got to find a way to be different. You have to stand out with your ad, because there's so many people trying to get other people's attention, including the people you want to sell to. They're trying to get other people's attention. And if you don't stand out, it doesn't matter how great you are if they don't realize that. So don't make the mistake of like looking at what other people are doing to advertise, and then you're doing like something similar. Yes, you can learn from some of what you see, but you want to take that, blend it with what you do, differentiate yourself, and stand out so that you don't look like what everybody else sees on a regular basis. Like, that's really important. So when it comes to audiences for this top of the funnel meta, there's a couple different options. We definitely have large audiences that are very broad based off of a number of different factors. So you could have a large general broad audience. And then also we have other campaigns that are segmented smaller audiences, and large and small audiences depend on who you're talking to. Some people think 1 million is small and others think that's large. It does depend on a lot of factors, but let's just say, you know, for the sake of discussion, if 4 million was like a large audience, we would have some ads going to, 2 to 4 million people. But then we would also have some other campaigns in this top of the funnel meta going to maybe like 500,000 people that were more segmented by certain demographics and behaviors and interests. And then we would be matching our ad copy to those segments. And that's powerful too. So we're going to have like a large, broad audience. We're going to have a segmented audience. And sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 different segmented audiences, depending on ad budget. And then also, if you have this available to you, check out an Advantage Plus audience. Not everybody has it, but it's definitely something you should test. It doesn't always work well, but sometimes it works really well. So you want to test that as a good audience for this level, for this top of the funnel strategy. And then in regards to messaging, I recommend you guys use my formula: educate, entertain, inspire, and differentiate. No matter what kind of business you have, no matter what you're selling, product, service, e-commerce, local business, courses, anything, you can do that. You can educate, entertain, inspire, and differentiate. And what I recommend is, for this meta, the top of the funnel, stage 1, I recommend usually not going straight for the sale. Like, assume that the people that are seeing your ads have never, ever seen you or your company or your brand, and that they're also skeptical from the first time they see you. Assume that. So teach them something in these ads or inspire them. Give them some choices or make them smile, or a combination of all those things. And remember, you've got to stand out. Now, if you are teaching them something or, hitting on something specific, you don't need a ton of depth. You don't want to be too specific at this stage. It's more about getting awareness, building a connection, and then we'll be doing more depth in the next level of things that I'll talk to you about in a second. That'll be the middle of the funnel. And then also, you could either have no call to action or just a light call to action. I'll usually just have a very light call to action. I'll still have a link, for them to go where I want them to go, but I'm not going to really talk about it much in the ad. It's not the focus of the ad. That's going to come later. So that is part 1. That's the top of the funnel meta that we use, like one of them. Like I said, there's others, but this is one of the great things that we use. The second meta is our middle of the funnel strategy. So most effective tactic, middle of the funnel strategy. The goal here is to build on the awareness that we did and got in the top of the funnel from part 1. We want to build on that. We want to expand on that. And we want to further educate, give value, and build trust with our audience, and also demonstrate credibility so they feel comfortable with your brand, whether that's comfortable learning from you or buying from you, or both. And you also want to use this to leverage and show your differentiation, and to really start building like a true connection with your audience, like show them that you care. So that's the goal of this middle of the funnel meta strategy. So the objectives that we use here are similar, although we do use reach here, because a lot of these audiences are going to be retargeting, and reach is a really good objective for retargeting audiences. But also sometimes we'll use traffic, or we'll use the sales/conversions objective even to these retargeting audiences as well. So I like using these different objectives. Sometimes I'll use one, sometimes I'll use another. Other times I'll test them all, because it's not always the same one that works the best. So that's where you want to use data and testing to see. Don't just assume that one is always the best. Now, when it comes to audiences, we focus on retargeting the most. And that means connecting with people that we got their attention from the first top of the funnel strategy. So it's a follow-up ad if they've seen one of our top of the funnel ads. So we have a couple of different retargeting audiences. We've got our broad retargeting audiences that encompasses everyone. And they may have seen an ad, they may have visited the website from another source, they might have watched a video of yours, but in some way they've seen you before. So that's our big, broad retargeting audience. That's one audience we'd use for this middle of the funnel meta. Another retargeting audience we would use is a segmented retargeting audience. So if you have either ads or pages or products that are specific to a pain point or angle of some kind, and somebody is engaged with it, then you can get back in front of them and you can segment them and talk to them more about that exact same product or pain point. And that's super powerful. So we'll do that too. So we'll have different segmented audiences. And then of course we'll have the broad audience. You can also do an abandoned cart audience here as well, although usually the last option, the bottom of the funnel I'm going to give you next, is best for that, but sometimes we'll use that here as well. So most of this middle of the funnel meta is going to be retargeting people that have already seen us, but you can also test some of this on cold audiences too if you've got the budget for it. Sometimes it'll work really well even with a cold audience. So it's definitely worth testing. I like doing that as well. Now, when it comes to messaging, again, you want to go back to the educate, entertain, inspire, differentiate, and you want to build on what you talked about at the top of the funnel. You want to identify the pain points or the problems that your product or service solves and what your customers or clients truly want and truly need, and then communicate effectively like how you can help them. And then more importantly, why you are the best one to help them, why you're the best company or person or brand to help them. And then you can have a much stronger focused call to action. In our top of the funnel meta, we just would have a light call to action. We might not even mention it, but it's there. Well, in this middle of the funnel meta, if you're doing a video or even in your ad copy, you can have a much stronger call to action where you're calling attention to it in there. And that can be really powerful. So some people will ask, well, how does this differ from the top of the funnel meta? I mean, it sounds kind of similar with the messaging. And it is similar, but the key differences are, number one, they've already seen you before. So we have a better chance of converting them now. And number two, what we're doing is we're going into more depth on things like pain points and how you can help them. In that top of the funnel meta step, we're more broadly focused, just lightly touching on those things. But here we're going into more depth. Or if you're teaching them something, you're going to actually teach them the next step or more depth of what you shared with them originally. So that's like the big difference between the top of the funnel and the middle of the funnel metas. And then lastly, number three, we've got the bottom of the funnel meta strategy. The goal here is to convert sales or leads, depending on what you're doing. But the goal is to convert. And now you have earned the right to convert. You've done the top of the funnel meta. You've done the middle of the funnel meta. You've given them value. You've built a connection. You've hopefully demonstrated your credibility. You've done all the right things. This is the time to go for conversions and sales. And so the objectives we like to use here are also reach, traffic, and then sales and conversions. I like all of those, and I would test those. And then the audiences are going to be similar. They're going to be the broad retargeting as well as the segmented retargeting. And similar to the middle of the funnel plan, you can also try and test this on cold audiences. This is usually going to work better in most cases, or at least in a lot of cases. It'll work better for the warm retargeting audiences. So I would probably have most of this go towards them. But you never know. Sometimes we will test it to a cold audience and it'll surprise you and crush it. And if that happens, you follow the data and you do more to a cold audience. Always test and follow the data. And then when it comes to creatives, of course, video is always at the top of my list. You can use images. But the key point here when it comes to like messaging and creatives, I would recommend using short ad copy on this one. So in the other ads, we do a combination, sometimes short, sometimes long, but we're teaching things or inspiring, and we're having to kind of tell more. We're differentiating. In this one, in this bottom of the funnel meta, it's more focused, it's shorter. We essentially know that they've seen all that stuff with our previous ads. We might want to remind them a little bit on those things, but the main goal is to say, hey, we've got this product or service that we know you're going to love that will help you fix this or give you that. And here's how to take advantage of that. That's the main goal of this ad. And you can have a very strong call to action. And obviously you'd be very specific to your product or service and say it differently than that. But I think you get what I mean. So those are my three metas that I wanted to share with you guys today. Again, I wanted to be clear that there are other metas that we use depending on certain situations and clients and stuff like that. But these three can definitely be implemented for just about any kind of business. And you can really do some cool things with this. So I highly recommend you guys test this because very few people do it, and it's so powerful. My friends, episode 325 is in the books. If you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, or you want to get in touch for a potential coaching call, or maybe having your ads run for you or anything like that, just go to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital. I would love to connect with you, and I will talk to you guys on next week's episode. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast. Please remember to subscribe and share this with all your friends. For show notes, more tips, and to learn more about Phil, please visit philgrahamdigital.com/podcast.